Imagine for a moment that you are a person living in a country today. Now imagine that one day your country splits, and you have to choose in a matter of days whether you want to move to one side or the other. This isn't something most of us can relate to. Thankfully, our countries don't split up every day. But for the people of the Indian subcontinent, this was their reality almost 75 years ago. And to say that this split was messy would be an understatement. When the British finally left the subcontinent in 1947, they left behind not one but two independent states, India and Pakistan. To understand why the subcontinent was split in two, we have to first understand the British Raj. For most of the 18th century, the entire subcontinent was ruled by the Mughal Empire. However, by the mid-19th century, the British East India Company had taken control of most of India. By 1858, after the Sepoy Rebellion, the British Crown took over the territory, directly ruling it as the British Raj until independence in 1947. Despite being ruled by one power, the subcontinent was not a monolith. It was, in fact, made up of many different states, some of which were independent until the end. There were also significant religious differences within the subcontinent, mainly between the Hindu majority and Muslim minority. As the 20th century progressed, calls for independence grew louder. Many leaders like Mahatma Gandhi advocated for a united and independent India. However, others like Muhammad Ali Jinnah wanted a separate state for Muslims where they would be the majority. These demands were not only based on religion, but also on the fear of religious minorities being marginalized in a post-colonial India. The British, who ruled through divide and conquer tactics, encouraged these differences to their advantage. They appeased Muslim leaders like Jinnah, promising them a separate state if they supported the war effort during World War II. This proved to be a fatal mistake. After the war, the subcontinent was on the brink of independence. But instead of using this opportunity to forge a new united nation, the old divisions came to the surface. Negotiations between Hindu and Muslim leaders failed, as did those between the British and Muslim leaders. Ultimately, the British decided to split the subcontinent along religious lines. In 1947, the Indian Independence Act was passed, which partitioned the subcontinent into two separate states. Most of the former princely states became part of India, or Pakistan. Some, like Junagadh, the plan was for Lord Mountbatten, the last Viceroy of India, to depart on June 3, 1947, with the new borders established on August 14, 1947. That's just 11 days later. For the people of the subcontinent, life, as they knew it, was about to change. Overnight, they were to decide whether they would live under the rule of the Indian government or the Pakistani one. If they chose to remain where they were, they would become citizens of one country or the other, depending on which side the state they lived in joined. Those who chose to move had only a few days to pack up and leave. Needless to say, this caused mass panic. Hindus began moving towards what would be the border of India, while Muslims moved towards the future Pakistan-Bangladesh border. Some estimates suggest that about 15 million people changed countries in this manner. Trains were packed to capacity, roads were jammed with vehicles and people, and railway stations were filled with those waiting to board the next train out. But things weren't just chaotic. There were also instances of extreme violence, with entire communities being wiped out. Women and children were killed, villages were set ablaze, and countless atrocities were committed on both sides. While the situation was dire for everyone, there were a few bright spots. People who helped others move, such as those who worked at railway stations, were celebrated as heroes. Humanitarians such as John and Ida Irene, who opened their homes to refugees, were also praised. By August, most of the movement had come to a halt. The new borders were established and two new nations were born. While the official partition lasted only a few months, the consequences of this period are still felt today. The trauma of this time is still passed down through generations. Families were torn apart, and the violence left a scar on the subcontinent that has yet to heal fully. The India-Pakistan divide was meant to solve the problems of the subcontinent, but it only created more. It gave way to decades of hostility between the two nations, including wars, terrorism, and cross-border conflicts. Perhaps the subcontinent would have been better off had the British not left such a brutal middle finger as their parting gift. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching.